satisfying moment clicking it and going live.
Oh, turn my phone off.
Thank you for joining us this evening for this live interview with script supervisor Sylvia Parker, brought to you by Amplify Film Festival. We are just going to go give people a minute to find us. So if you're joining live, hello. If you're watching the recording, where were you? And please make sure to give us a like and tell us where you are watching from in the comments. This interview is part of Amplify Film Festival, a partnership between Film Bath Cambridge Film Festival, Sydney City Brighton and Cornwall Film Festival. 4 brilliant British film festivals distilled into one, blasting brilliant new cinema into your front room. Amplify's online film festival runs from November the 6th to the 22nd and is beaming feature films, shorts and industry events directly to you wherever you are in the UK, or in the case of this event, the world. I also need to say a big thank you to the BFI and the National Lottery for being Amplify's main funder. With that said, I am Henry for Amplify Film Festival, and I would like, if you haven't already, to give us a like and make a note to go check out our previous interviews. One last thing, just a quick reminder, if you want to submit a question, please do so via the comments, and a big thank you to Yo-Yo, who is keeping an eye on those this evening. If you don't have a question, why not tag someone who you think is missing out in this interview? The more likes and comments, the more people will see it. And with that said, let's get rid of that. It is a great pleasure to introduce tonight's guest, Sylvia Parker, a script supervisor with over 60 credits in IMDb, and what a range they are. Her work has included Trainspotting 2, The Hollow Crown, The Theory of Everything, Jane Eyre, The Favourite, Murder on the Orient Express, Military Wives, Artemis Fowl, and the upcoming James Bond film, No Time to Die. Please give a like to Sylvia Parker. Hello, Sylvia. Thank you for joining me.
Hi, Henry. Thank you for having me.
It's okay. Right, I've got the introduction. Oh, I've got all the notifications going on, Sylvia. It's most wonderful. Everyone's watching us. So let's begin. How did you become a script supervisor?
Long time ago, I had a normal 9-to-5 job and decided I wanted to do something else, wanted to change. So I went back studying and I did a French degree with film. And I thought, you know, I love film. Why don't I go and do that? So that was the sort of start of it. Did a lot of sort of short films, did a lot of student films, and then just gradually things built up. And here I am 25 years later.
Fair enough. Bit of a change there then with your from French to filming. Okay, and so that's your journey into it. But what exactly does a script supervisor do?
Very, very good question. A lot of people don't know what we do. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to sort of give you a short quote. A brilliant writer, Michael Green, I work with, he gave his opinion of what he thought a script supervisor does. I'm going to just quote him. He said, everybody knows what a script supervisor is supposed to do on the technical level. Those things can be listed in books. The more interesting part of the job, and equally necessary, is the invisible stuff, the vital intuition, the nod of approval, you got it, to the director. The script supervisor is the institutional memory of the story as it must be. When everyone else is myopically focusing on buttons and lenses and strands of hair and the motion of a cloud across the sky, the script supervisor is the only one focusing on all those, as well as the actual movie that is being made. I think that kind of sums it up, really. Yeah. We cover a whole range of tasks, which, you know, I'm happy to explain as we go along.
That's great. So it's kind of that you're working very closely with director there then.
Absolutely, yeah.
Is that sort of your primary role, is to help support that side of things and make sure that things are happening?
Yeah, we work across the board. We work with all departments, with makeup, costume, art department, camera. But you know, the main focus is the director. It's up to me to make sure that he or she has all the shots they need to cut the film together, that there's continuity throughout, because obviously we shoot out of continuity. We don't shoot scene 1, 2, 3. We maybe start with scene 26 and the next day it'll be scene 3. And so it's really important to have continuity with actors, with their dialogue, with their actions, so the story all holds together. So yeah, that's my role, yeah.
And then you said there continuity. Some people may have heard of the role of a continuity person, but
Yeah,
not the role of script supervisor. Is it one and the same?
it is. It is. The old name was continuity or continuity supervisor. And it's sort of been merged together. Now we're now called script supervisors. Because we are in charge of the script. That's what we do. We supervise it. And depends on the project you're working on. Sometimes there's more script supervision to do than there is continuity, but the two go hand in hand. Yeah.
Great, marvelous. Okay, well, what would you say then is the what's the best bit about being a script supervisor to you?
Being on set, I love being on set. Just because film is a collaboration between lots of people, and I love that whole part of it, is working with different departments, working with the actors. Yeah, so for me, it's being on set, the script, of course, having a really great script to supervise. Yeah, there's loads of great things to this job. Yeah.
Oh, okay, I guess on the other side of that, then,
Mhm.
is there a worse side, a dark side to it?
A dark side. I wouldn't call it a dark side, Henry. There are some bad days. Yeah, you get some days where maybe you're on a night shoot and you're up a mountain in the freezing cold at about 3 o'clock in the morning. You think, why am I doing this? But then you think, what else would I be doing if I wasn't doing this? You know, I'd maybe be doing something I don't particularly want to be doing. So yeah, there are some off days, but most of the time it's pretty good. Yeah.
That's great. And we're going to talk about some of your projects now that you've worked on. And as I said earlier, there's a huge range of stuff you've done over
Yeah.
the years. But I want to start off with a doc mini series, Cosmos: A Space Odyssey. Now, a lot of people would associate a script supervisor with a drama only.
Yeah.
How does the role differ on a documentary? Is there a difference?
This was actually a docudrama. I don't know if it's an American series. It was a reboot of a series that happened, I think, back in the 80s. And so we had a presenter who presented the program. So that was the docu side of it. But then there was a lot of action put together with actors and with dialogue. So basically, I script supervised the bits in between the docu parts. Yeah.
And does that do you work the same way you do on drama for the scenes you were doing?
For the most part, yeah. Sometimes, I mean, you have to know what the drama part is how it's cutting into the documentaries part. That is important to know. But otherwise, it's basically the same as you would script supervise a drama. Yeah.
Oh, great. I guess you need to know if there's going to be voiceover. It's making sure that the timing can work quite well for that, and making sure things can all go together. So I think it's important for any, especially younger filmmakers watching who are making anything that has a documentary and drama, to be aware that they have to combine those two elements, at an early stage, I guess, as well.
Yeah.
Now, again, something completely different. The Hollow Crown and Centurion, a TV series and a film, different ones, but very much action-packed moments in them. How do you deal with action? Because I imagine lots of things change every take.
Yes, they do. And this is what, I was just saying earlier about script supervision and continuity. When you have big action scenes like that, there's absolutely no way, no matter how brilliant you are at your job, that you can notice everything that's going on in a fight scene. So you have to focus on what's important. And so, you might talk to the director and say, ask him or her what they want to get out of that scene, and you'll focus on the particular actions, a particular actor. Because usually with those scenes as well, you're shooting multi-camera. I remember when we shot Centurion, I think we shot some of the battle scenes, we had about 4 cameras running. So one will be, focused on one part of the action, another on another part. So yeah, it's really focusing on what's important rather than everything that's going on. Otherwise you just get so confused. Yeah.
Oh, definitely. And how does that work then? So if you see are you looking at a monitor
Yeah, I have a monitor with all 4 cameras, which was, so I can see what each camera is covering and make sure that the whole scene is being covered with that every bit of the action, that, and to check that not maybe sometimes what you might have, because cameras move all over the place, you might have 2 that are covering exactly the same piece of action, and so you'd point that out to the director and say, don't you want this bit of action which you're not getting? So yeah, you just watch what's going on, and just if something doesn't look right or that there's something missing, you just let the director know. Yeah,
that's fair enough. And do you have to go to the departments to let them know things, or they come to you? How does that how does giving feedback work?
Well, that sort of starts right at the very beginning. That starts in prep. Before you even get on set, we have a period of prep, and depends on the project. The length of time depends on the project. For instance, for the film you just mentioned, Centurion, I think I had 2 weeks prep, and there was no rehearsals or anything, so it was just preparing everything. And during that time, I will speak to costume and makeup, which is really important, because in that film, obviously people had injuries, so we need to sort out when those injuries are going to come up and when they're going to slowly disappear over the right period of time, so that that again, continuity. So yeah, everything during prep, I would speak to art department, speak to the DOP about shots he wants to do and stuff, speak to the VFX, SFX department. Yeah, most of that is done during prep. Yeah.
Right, so it makes everything run smoothly then when you get to set and get to shooting.
Exactly. If you have, you always find that, if you have a plan A, if something goes wrong, plan B kicks in,
No, it makes perfect sense. I think again, it goes back to what we've heard a lot in the past from industry professionals, is it's all about the prep. It's all about putting the work in early on to make it pay off later.
Yeah, I would say that for me personally, my prep is about 50% of my work already done before I get on set. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Something much smaller now. So I think you worked on last year, Soon Gone, a Windrush Chronicle. Unlike The Hollow Crown, Centurion, and other projects, it was a much smaller cast, wasn't it, for this one? I think IMDb has 2 listed for this project you worked on.
For the episode that I did, I think there was only 1, which was Lenny Henry. Yeah, just delivering a monologue. Yeah.
How does that differ then? Because if it's one man delivering a monologue, I imagine there's different angles to cover. Obviously, there's different actions. Does your process change at all with that?
No, it doesn't. To me, it's a drama thing. It's got lots of dialogue. Got to make sure all the dialogue is there. So there was a lot of dialogue in that. Prompting, if the actor sort of loses focus. But otherwise, no. I tend to approach everything in the same way, and then if there are problems, I can always adapt. But yes, for something like that, for Soon Gone, it was really just focusing on making sure we had all the dialogue and all the angles. Yeah.
No, that makes sense. And then when you work, do you work digitally, on paper? Do you have a script there, a tablet?
I work digitally. I've been working digitally now for quite a few years. I work with my iPad, which is great because you can just take it anywhere, So I have that. And I think most people do now. I mean, there's still people who work off pen and paper, which is great. You work however it suits you. Digitally just suits me. That's the way I do it. Yeah.
No, it makes perfect sense. I mean, it's working. I imagine obviously carrying a script around can be quite heavy as well at points.
I still have my script. I have to have my script because actors come up to me and want to see something. They don't want to look at an iPad. They want to see the actual words on a piece of paper. So I have a script. Yeah.
Oh, that's quite interesting. You have to have that hybrid combination.
Yeah.
Now, something that I know is happening in lots of films now, and people watching would have seen a film with this in, is CGI and VFX effects. I know one film you were involved in is Artemis Fowl. There's a lot of fairies without any plot spoilers, etc. They're not there on set, I'm guessing. So how does that work?
Yeah, there's a big. I don't think it's a spoiler because I think it's in the trailer. There is some scenes where there is a massive troll, and a lot of the times, he wasn't actually there when we were shooting. It was a combination of animatronics, CGI, and actually having somebody in costume against a green screen. So yeah, there's a lot of elements, and we shot those particular scenes with trouble over days and days and days, because there were bits, it was like, say for instance, one scene, I think we shot that for about 5 days because it had so many different elements, and even at the end it still wasn't completed because then we had to add the CGI afterwards. So yeah, you have a scene which can contain CGI, animatronics, live action, and yeah, it's all got to be put together.
And then for that, do you ever go, are you involved in the post-production process of helping them put things together?
No, I don't. They have all my notes. The VFX guys, they have all my notes, and so they work off those. Yeah.
No, that's great. I think it's quite interesting to see how, because technology is becoming more and more prevalent, obviously.
Yeah.
And there's a big shift now on the higher end productions of using CGI, or the director having monitors that can now display it all live to them. So it's quite nice to know how people work with these sorts of things. Now, I had to ask you about this. I know we can't talk too much about it because it's not out yet. I think you know where I'm going with this one.
I do.
No Time to Die. So those people who don't know, Sylvia worked on the new James Bond film as a script supervisor, No Time to Die. For a big feature like that, how much prep time do you get then?
I had about 4 weeks for that. It was because there were a lot of things to do. So yeah, I had I think it was about 4 weeks. Yeah.
Is that from when you first get the script to have to do a breakdown of it, or is that?
Yeah, the first thing I do is break down the script. No, sorry, the very first thing I do is actually time the script. Time it, and so that the director and everyone else has an idea, producers as well, have an idea of how long it is, if it's too long, if it's too short, they might want to cut things. Then I do a breakdown, a scene by scene breakdown of what happens, when it happens, do a story order. Yeah.
So how do you do it? How do you do a time? Do you sort of count the number of pages and estimate a time, or do you have to read it yourself?
Oh, no.
No? How does it work? Tell us.
People do them differently. Me personally, the only way I can get an accurate time in is by just acting it out. I just act out all the parts at home in my rooms, and no one can see me. And also for things like action scenes, I would just go to the director and say, how much time do you want for that? And then factor that in. Yeah.
That's great. I think covering this thing is much quite fun to sort of be able to go through. I'm all the characters in a James Bond movie.
Yeah.
That's great. So you said a bit about how 50% of your work's done before you get to set.
Yeah.
When it comes to a prep for the next day's shooting, do you have to get lots of stuff lined up for the next day? Do you just know which pages are being shot, and just is it like you finish shooting, you have to go get yourself ready again?
Yeah, after we finish shooting, sort of go back either to the office, production office, do my notes, hand those in for the editor for the next day, and then we get the call sheet for the next day. Look at that, see what we're doing. It may be a scene that we started shooting 2 weeks ago, so I have to go back to my notes from 2 weeks ago, have all those ready for the next day. Yeah, that's the last thing I do before I go to bed at night, is prep for the next day's shoot. Yeah,
that's great. Not necessarily related to Bond, but to any of your projects. How do you end up dealing with a director or actor who doesn't say want to take on board what you've been saying at the time? Is there a way you do it, or do you have to?
What I do, the directors, if I think there's a shot missing or something's wrong, I'll just go and talk to them privately. And it's up to them whether they want to take that on board or not. There might be, I might think there's a shot missing, and they'll just say, fine, I'm happy with that, I don't want to cover that, and they'll give me a reason why. That's fine, I accept that. They know how they're going to cut the film together. There's no way, I think you have to be really, really careful that you don't overstep the mark and you sort of start directing. That's not what I do. I'm a script supervisor, and I'm there to try and help the director. It's up to them. They know how they're going to cut the film. I don't always know that. So I'll point something out, and they'll either accept it or they won't, and that's absolutely fine. I don't have a problem. Yeah.
No, makes sense. Again, it goes back to it's a collaborative process ultimately.
Yeah.
You feed in what you can do.
Mm.
So if someone is looking to become a script supervisor, how can they go about that?
Okay, what I would advise doing is there's a lot of short courses. Screen Skills do some courses with experienced script supervisors. I think they're worth doing because they're people who are actively working. I've done some stuff for Screen Skills. I think just do a short course that you have an idea of what it's about, because then you might think, oh, maybe it's not for me. If it is for you, you sort of, you've done a course and you think, yeah, this is what I want to do. What I would advise is to get on some student films. That's what I started off doing. I did a lot of did continuity on films for students from National Film School. That's great. You learn a lot and you can make mistakes, and it's not a big, it's not such a big deal. You learn from your mistakes. Then after you've got a few things behind you, a few student films and short films, I would I'd advise trying to contact somebody like me, not necessarily me, but anybody else, and asking if you can come and assist them. That's another way, is to assist somebody, and then you learn from actually doing the job. So yeah, that's the way I would do it. Yeah.
Cool. I just want to go back to short films for a second, because a lot of people watching maybe short film makers and have never thought about having a script supervisor on set. We obviously know it's an important thing. But if there's any sort of tips you can give people who are going, oh, I've never thought about having a script supervisor on set, or how they might try to find somebody who can do it, or any basic thing they can try and implement themselves if they don't have enough crew to put someone in as a dedicated script supervisor.
Yeah, it's really hard if you are doing a short film and you've got no money. I know sometimes it's one of the roles that people will say, okay, we'll pass on that. And then they get into the edit suite and wish they hadn't. It is hard. I think the best thing to do is to sort of seek out the film schools, because they will have somebody on their books. Like they had when I was starting out. I was on the National Film School's books, someone wanted somebody to do continuity. So yeah, I would do that, just so, sort of check out the film school and say, no, look, have you got a script supervisor who, who's happy to just work for, a low amount of money, or, a credit or whatever. There's always somebody, because there's somebody who wants to get that first job. Yeah.
No, I think that's great advice. And it also helps, it does add a huge amount of value, as you say. If you're going to go have someone on set to keep an eye on it, and then in the edit, it can save the film, I suppose.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Great. Well, we're coming towards questions now from everyone watching. So reminder, if you've got any questions, do please put them in the comments. Got a few already. Some people saying it's a wonderful session, which is very nice to hear. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
And actually, there's also a question about being a trainee, so that's quite nice. But let's start. I'll start with some questions. We've got some. Do you have any historical research for period pieces? Do you ever have to tell a director, props department, costume that they shouldn't use something?
No, because that's usually something that the art department will have worked out beforehand. That they're usually really on that. The only thing that I can think of, it's not a prop, it's to do with dialogue. For instance, a long time ago, I did a film which was set in the 1970s in the UK, but we had two American directors. And there was a scene where we had some people, they were improvising, and they're very young people, so they were born in the 80s and 90s. And so they didn't understand the dialogue of the 1970s, and they were saying phrases that were very much 1980s. And the directors didn't realize that. So I had to point out, this is not the way they would have spoken in the 1970s. So it's more stuff like that to do with dialogue rather than props, which art department would always know about. Yeah.
No, that makes sense. Okay. What sort of notes do you write for the editor?
Good question. Everything. Basically the shot description, whether it's a close-up, a wide shot, who's in the shot. I try and make it as succinct as I can. But sometimes if you've got like what we call a roving shot, where you're using a steady cam and the shot's changing as the camera moves. So I would describe how the shot is developing. Then I would also put down what we call the camera setup, which is the lens that was used, any filters that were used, all lots of camera details. So they have all that, yeah. And then also I may get notes from a director. The director will tell me which take he likes, he or she likes. It may be a combination of takes. They may say, can you ask them to take this bit from take 1? But I like this for so-and-so's performance in take 2. So I'll put all those notes from the director into my notes for the editor.
That's good. Oh, here we go. Do you ever take on script supervisor trainees? And if so, how do they get in touch with you?
Yes, I do. I really try and have trainees. I really believe in having trainees because I'm not going to be here forever. And I love the idea of someone else taking over and doing the job. So yes, I have had trainees. I've had people who've written to me. They've usually done something first. They've done, like I explained earlier, they've either worked on some student films. They've been, they've done a lot of stuff on their own first. I do not take on people who've done absolutely nothing. They have to show that they are interested in it. And so I will take someone on who's done something, gone out and done something on their own. And then I will take them on and take them to the next level. Yeah.
There you go. So if you're watching, you know what to do now. Quite a fun one. Any recommendations for a good coat on set?
What's that?
A good coat. Well, Jack, what coat should they wear on set? Because I guess if you're sat around quite a lot if it's a cold mountainside.
Right. This is going to depend on your budget. Okay. I don't know what this person's budget is. Most of us, I'm not promoting these people, but most of us do wear North Face stuff because it's good. But there are some other more expensive ones. I don't know. Just something that's if it's winter, something that's going to keep you warm, basically.
I told you to get some interesting questions here. It's always quite good fun. What would you consider to be the script supervisor's skill set?
That's a good one. What would I consider to be their skill set?
Yeah.
That's a really good one. I don't know, we don't particularly, there's so many skills to the job. There's not one particular skill. I think probably, let me just name a few things. On set, you really have to be focused. You have to be someone who is focused, no matter what's going on around you. There's loads of things going on around you. You have to really focus on what's happening because you're the only person who is watching everything. As I said in that quote earlier, someone might, for instance, costume, maybe checking somebody's costume, how that's ending up. Makeup, we were looking at hair and, if that's still in place or whatever. The art department will be looking at props. I need to cover absolutely everything, including dialogue. So I think the most important thing is being able to focus on everything, is basically being superhuman and doing everything. That's our skill set.
Just everything is the skill set. That sounds good. I mean, do you get lots of people crowding around your monitors, or do you make sure everyone's got their own space?
No, because I'm usually with the director, and the director will not have everybody crowded around the monitor. Usually it's just myself and the director and the DP sometimes, yeah. And that's it, yeah.
That makes sense. Ooh, tell us more about your time as a script supervisor for London 2012 Olympic opening ceremony, Miles of Wonder.
Yeah. Well, that was because I worked with Danny Boyle quite a lot. I've worked with him in several of his projects. And I don't know if you saw the opening ceremony, but there was a lot of little films that were inserted in between the ceremony. There was like, we had scenes with this family in the house. We had the big famous scene with Her Majesty the Queen and James Bond. So that was the drama part of it. So I did all the drama part of it, all those little films that were made for the Olympic Games. Yeah.
So you're working
it was fun, really, really fun.
Bond.
Yeah, it was good.
The theory of everything related question. Do you have any memories from the set, I guess?
Yeah, I do. One of my memories was I remember Eddie Redmayne come in the wheelchair as you know, playing the part, and I remember him sort of like wheeling towards me, and me thinking, oh my God, he really looks like the real thing. It wasn't Eddie Redmayne, you know, it was really Stephen Hawking. That was quite amazing. And then also Stephen Hawking actually came down to set one day when we were filming all the Cambridge parts, and he came down to set and sort of sat near the monitor, and that was quite weird seeing him and Eddie playing him both in close proximity. Yeah, that was
Yeah, that must
interesting.
be quite strange, particularly on a biopic type of thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Work. What excites you about a project?
The script, first and foremost, the script. I was talking to you earlier when you asked me about films, and I said one of my recent favourites was the film The Favourite, and it was the script. I hadn't read a script like that in a long time. And I remember I was actually working on another project when I got the script, and the only time I could read it was at night, and I literally stayed up the whole night to finish reading it because I thought it was brilliant. So yeah, that's the first thing that attracts me to it. And then also, if I go back working with the same director again, I like working with, you know, people that I've worked with before, same crew members, you know, because then you sort of really work well together because you know how everybody works, and it's a great group of people. So yeah, it's the script and the people that you work with. Yeah.
Any tips? All the questions are on such odd different things. It's quite great. It's like, oh, this one, this one, this one. Any tips for helping prompt an actor?
Good. That's a really, really good question. Really good, because depends. You work different ways with different actors. There are some actors who don't want, you know, who are trying things out. So they may not get the dialogue right the first time, and they will tell you that. They say, look, I'm just trying a few things out. So you let it go for a few takes until they've got what they want to do. There are other actors who want to be corrected every single time. They want to say the script as it's written, and even if it's a tiny mistake, they want you to tell them. So you learn what actors want, when they want you to step in, because you don't need to step in all the time. You don't. You'll just get on their nerves, and so you have. And it's something you learn. It's from experience. You learn when to go in and when not to, and how different actors work. Yeah, it's a good question. Yeah.
No, I think it's a very important one to, again, for those any level of project. You just don't want to be, because some small projects have quite big names attached to them sometimes, or vice versa. And
But what I found is that most actors want to get things right. They don't want to look stupid, so they want their continuity to be right. Yeah.
that makes sense. Okay, we've got time for a few more questions, I think. What's the most exciting film or TV series you've worked on, and why?
Most exciting. Let me think. I enjoyed. Oh, I can say Bond, which was great because everybody wants to do a Bond movie, and it was great doing all the action scenes. You get to go to amazing locations and work. So that was really, really exciting. I really enjoyed it. It was a great thing to do, and yeah, everyone's impressed when you've done a Bond movie.
Why not? I mean, it's those massive franchises, isn't it? We spoke to Debbie McWilliams, who's the casting director for Bond during lockdown. It was quite, again, one of those interesting things. This massive franchise, so many moving parts to it at every level. Okay, and on to Bond. Actually, what's the catering like on set for Bond?
It was pretty good. Yeah. Yeah, it was good. I mean, I'm vegan, and so I'm quite difficult sometimes to please. And I was, yeah, it was good. Very good.
Yes, I know. Great the questions. Do you ever read the book if you're working on an adaptation?
No, never. Just the script. I don't see the point because, for instance, when I did Jane Eyre, I mean, I had read the book years and years ago, and I was at school. I chose not to reread it because Moira Buffini, who did the adaptation, had taken a totally different approach, and she'd done something really new with it. And that's what I go with, the script. Yeah.
No, it makes sense. Oh, I've got this one final question for you. What is the most challenging project you have had?
Ooh, quite a few. Bond probably, because it was a very, very long shoot, and we shot some action scenes. I think it was like about May, and then as everybody knows, our lead actor injured himself, so we couldn't complete them. So we didn't actually complete these sequences until something like that September. So it was having to go back to all this action stuff that we've done, a lot of stunts, and that was quite complicated. Yeah, it's fitting everything together. Yeah, I think that the most difficult things are when you shoot one scene and you may shoot it over a long period of time in different locations, in different countries even. You can have a person walking through a door in one country and out, and you shoot the other side in another country. So those are quite difficult things because you have to do a lot of matching and to make it look as though it was all filmed at once, yeah.
Great. I want to ask actually one more question, if that's okay.
Yeah, sure.
Links to that idea of shooting it, and it's a very British question, really. I guess you have to make a big note of the weather if you're going to be shooting scenes at different periods of time that are taking place.
Yes, yeah, you do, definitely do. But there's not a lot you can do about it sometimes. With rain, it has to be really quite heavy rain before it shows up, because I've noticed that, we've shot something, started shooting it in rain, and then the rain's gone off or it's come back, or vice versa. And you don't often know unless it's really, really heavy rain. There's a lot of things. I know sometimes you get people on IMDb saying, oh, like I said, continuity, there was rain here, rain there. But I'm a script supervisor, I'm not God, so not much I can do about that, I'm afraid.
Well, on that note then, I think, Sylvia, thank you so much for your time this evening. It's been great talking to you. I hope you've enjoyed. Thank you everyone for joining us and watching live or recorded. You can join us again on Friday the 13th at 5 p.m, where we'll be talking to Hannah Marie Williams, casting director and UK casting specialist for Backstage. But to, I would say, play us out, I haven't got any music. Ooh, is it the wrong? That's the wrong one. Where's your slide? Where's the right slide gone? Oh, can't get the stuff. No. Well, let's leave that one. Thank you all for joining us this evening. If you are at loose end this evening, do go check out Amplify for a huge range of shorts, features, and documentaries. So once again, thank you all for joining us, and join us again on Friday.
Thank you.